Hello friends, welcome to a new chapter today. In this chapter we are going to learn about the tumors in paranasal sinuses. So paranasal sinus tumors. First, we have benign tumors in paranasal sinuses and we also have malignant tumors in paranasal sinuses. So first, in the benign tumors of paranasal sinuses, first we have osteoma. Okay, so in osteoma, the most common benign tumor of paranasal sinus is osteoma. Most common benign tumor of paranasal sinuses is osteoma. It is slow growing. So if you see in osteoma, it is most commonly seen in frontal, followed by ethmoidal, followed by maxillary. Okay, it is most commonly seen in frontal. Osteoma is most commonly seen in the frontal, then ethmoidal, then maxillary. If you see clinical features, osteoma does not have lots of features. It is mostly asymptomatic or silent. If because of this osteoma, if the ostium, that means the drainage system of the sinus, if that is closed, that will lead to mucocele. This mucocele will cause headache and diplopia. Okay, so if you see on CT or on X-ray, you see dense mass which is ground glass appearance is seen on CT or X-ray. So how are you going to treat it? Treatment is we will have to do excision of this tumor, right? For excision, for this osteoma to get excised, especially if it is frontal or sphenoidal osteoma, then that is removed by external frontoethmoidectomy. Frontal or sphenoidal osteoma is removed by external frontoethmoidectomy, which includes Lynch-Haworth procedure. This external frontoethmoidectomy is called as Lynch-Haworth procedure. So frontal and sphenoidal osteomas are removed by external frontoethmoidectomy, which is called as Lynch-Haworth procedure. So just let me show you the picture. So these are the pictures. This is the picture of frontal sinus osteoma. Here in this X-ray you can see this part where there is osteoma. This is CT scan. I'm sorry I didn't get the full picture, but this is the frontal sinus osteoma. Then the next tumor which we have to learn here is fibrous dysplasia. So what does this fibrous dysplasia mean? As the name says, the medullary bone here is replaced by fibrous osseous. So the medullary bone here is replaced by fibro-osseous tissue. Here the medullary bone is replaced by fibro-osseous tissue. This fibrous dysplasia is most commonly seen in the age group of 5 to 15 years. It is most commonly seen in females with painless swelling of the bone. Okay, this is seen as a painless swelling of the bone most commonly in females. And here the most common site of this fibrous dysplasia is maxillary maxilla. Especially it is common in canine fossa or zygomatic arch. It is most commonly seen in maxilla, especially it is most commonly seen in canine fossa or zygomatic arch. Then in the X-ray PNS, it is seen in X-ray PNS or CT scan. You can see this has ground glass appearance. In X-ray paranasal sinus or CT scan, there is ground glass appearance, and the treatment is surgery can be done for this. Okay, we can do surgery. Then if we see malignant tumors of paranasal sinuses. So what are the malignant tumors? So these are the benign tumors. Okay, now what are the malignant tumors of paranasal sinuses? The malignant tumors include, first before going into it, what is the etiology of malignant tumors of paranasal sinuses? In hardwood furniture industry, predisposes to adenocarcinoma of ethmoid or upper nasal cavity, which also predisposes to woodworker's carcinoma. So here hardwood furniture industry is predisposes to adenocarcinoma of ethmoid and upper nasal cavity. This will also predispose to woodworker's carcinoma. Then nickel industry will predispose to squamous cell carcinoma and also anaplastic carcinoma. Nickel industry predisposes to squamous cell carcinoma and anaplastic carcinoma. Histology, it is this malignant tumor of paranasal sinus, it is 80%, it is squamous cell carcinoma, sometimes adenoma, adenoid cystic carcinoma, melanoma, sarcoma can also occur. Most common site is maxillary antrum, followed by ethmoid sinus, followed by frontal sinus, followed by sphenoid sinus. Most common site is maxillary antrum. Okay, if you see the clinical features, early clinical features include because this is in the sinus space, so obviously clinical features, earlier features will be related to the sinus and spaces. So as a result, there will be nasal stuffiness and unilateral epistaxis can occur. There can be facial paresthesias or pain can be associated with this. Euphoria and dental pain can occur due to this carcinoma of paranasal sinuses. There are some late symptoms which include anterior, it can spread to anteriorly when it is in the, think that it is in the maxillary sinus. If it spreads anteriorly, it will involve the cheek, right? If the tumor spreads medially, it will involve the nasal cavity and the ethmoid. If the tumor spreads inferiorly, it involves the alveolus, and thus it can cause malocclusion and loose tooth. If this spreads superiorly, it will involve the orbit, and thus it causes diplopia and proptosis and loss of vision. If this spreads posteriorly, then it can spread to the pterygoid plates and it causes trismus and intracranial spread. Okay, so these are the normal features which occur due to the spread of the tumor, right? So in this, the lymphatic spread is uncommon, but in early tumor it can spread to retropharyngeal lymph node. Okay, most commonly it spreads to submandibular lymph node. So in carcinoma of paranasal sinuses, the earliest lymph node which is involved is retropharyngeal lymph node, and most common lymph node which is involved is submandibular lymph node. Then how are you going to diagnose it? Diagnosis is mainly by biopsy, but the best investigation for diagnosis is CECT and paranasal sinus of nose and paranasal sinuses, because this tells us the exact location of the tumor. Okay, then if you see classification, we have two different types of classification for maxillary sinus carcinoma. One is, we call it as Ogren's classification. Second, we have Lederman's classification. First, Ogren's classification. Second, we have Lederman's classification. See, in Ogren's classification, an imaginary line is drawn between the medial canthus of the eye and the angle of mandible. Okay, an imaginary line is drawn between the medial canthus of the eye and angle of mandible. Okay, so this line will divide the whole skull or the whole skull into two parts, one upper part and lower part. Okay, upper part, the tumors which are arising from the upper part have poor prognosis, whereas the tumors arising from the lower part have better prognosis. Okay, so here the line is drawn from the medial canthus of the eye to the angle of mandible. Okay, here the imaginary line is drawn from the medial canthus of eye to the angle of mandible, and when the tumor is in the upper part, it causes poor prognosis, and if the tumor is in the lower part, it causes better prognosis. Then we have one more classification which is called as Lederman's classification. In this Lederman's classification, we draw two horizontal lines and two vertical lines. Two horizontal lines, one passing the superior border of the maxillary sinus, the other passing inferior border of the maxillary sinus, or you can say one passing the floor of the orbit. The first line is passing through the floor of the orbit. Remember this one instead of superior and inferior border of maxillary sinus, because this is the one which is given in textbooks. Okay, the first line which is passing through the floor of the orbit, this is the orbit. So first one is passing through the floor of the orbit, whereas the second horizontal line is passing the antrum of maxillary sinus. Okay, these are the two lines, and if you see, we also have two vertical lines which pass through the median border of orbit. Okay, two vertical lines are also drawn which pass through the medial border of the orbit, and this will divide the whole skull into 9 parts. Okay, and this is mainly divides into 3 parts: one suprastructure, second mesostructure, and third infrastructure. So if you see, one which is suprastructure, second we have mesostructure, and third we have infrastructure. So if you see what is seen in suprastructure you can see frontal sinus can be seen. Okay, you will see orbits, frontal sinus, and a part of ethmoidal sinuses is also seen in the superior structure, suprastructure. Whereas in the mesostructure we see the maxillary sinus and also the nasal cavity. Okay, and then in the infrastructure we have mandible, alveoli of bone, all these are seen in the infrastructure. Okay, then this is a squamous cell carcinoma. So obviously, because it is a tumor, you will have to do surgery. The surgery which we planned here is total or partial maxillectomy. The surgery which can be planned here is called as total and partial maxillectomy. You will remove the maxilla completely, or at least half of it is removed. So here for this total or partial maxillectomy, the incision used is, we can use Weber-Ferguson incision is used for this total or partial maxillectomy. For total or partial maxillectomy, the incision used is Weber-Ferguson's incision. So if the tumor, if this tumor, it is a cancer, so it easily spreads to other parts of the body. Okay, spreads to the surrounding structures most commonly. So if the tumor extends to the ethmoid and maxilla, or that is maxilloethmoid complex, if the tumor extends to ethmoid or maxilloethmoid complex, then we call it as craniofacial dissection. If this tumor extends to maxilloethmoid complex, then we call it as craniofacial resection. If the tumor extends, we will have to do craniofacial resection. If the tumor extends to infratemporal fossa, then we should do extended Weber-Ferguson incision. Should be given if the tumor extends to infratemporal fossa. Okay, and you should also do condylectomy. And resection of tumor with pterygoid plate and muscle can be done, and this technique is Barbosa technique. Even if you don't know this process is fine, but at least know the name of the technique. For infratemporal fossa, if the tumor extends into the infratemporal fossa, we should use this Barbosa technique. Okay, then if there is ethmoid sinus malignancy, if this malignancy involves the ethmoid sinus, then it has poor prognosis. Okay, so this is about the malignant tumor of paranasal sinuses. So thank you guys for watching my lecture. In the next class we will learn about some more topics. Thank you.